another regarding the last days and the end of this earth as we currently know it. I know it sounds like a heavy topic, and I understand there's probably people who might be skeptical of my statements, and I have no problem with that, really. I think it's fantastic to ask questions, and I hope that you would, even in your skepticism, I hope that you would be attempting to seek truth as best as you can. In this third part, I wanted to just continue with the initial introduction about why I'm taking a Christian biblical perspective of this subject matter. And another reason is just the basis of this book that people call the Bible. The Bible is a fascinating book, all-time bestseller, most copies of any book ever sold in the world throughout history. And it's a fascinating book. 66 different letters contained in this one book with multiple different authors. I don't know the exact number in my head right now, but we are talking many different authors. And the interesting thing is that they all existed at different points in time. So there would obviously be no opportunity for collaboration between many of the authors, perhaps some of them, but not all of them. And so when you consider that there is an intrinsic story that flows from the beginning to the end that makes sense, even though it's a whole bunch of different people who've penned things on parchment, penned words on parchment. So that's I mean, there are many books today that have got multiple authors, and they have collaborated in the sense of agreeing on a certain subject matter or a topic or things like that, and then each one contributes their own chapter or something like that to the total book. These people didn't have that opportunity. A lot of them didn't have that opportunity to collaborate in that manner because they just existed in different eras, and yet there's still consistency between what each of them said. So that's quite fascinating. Just the first verse of the Bible, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. There is something called the Bereshit prophecy, and you can go look that up on YouTube or on the internet. In the original Hebrew images, because the Hebrew language is really made up of symbols, the entire story, the entire biblical story is contained in that first verse of Genesis. The entire story. I mean, that's crazy. Now, many people say Moses wrote the book of Genesis. I don't know. Some people say there's 10 different authors of the book of Genesis if you look at the different demarcations of Genesis. But let's just assume for a second that it was one author, Moses. How would he know that there was going to come a Messiah? The Messiah was going to come out of God's house, come to earth, die, go back to God's house. It's fascinating that just the first verse of the Bible has got the entire story of the Bible wrapped up in it, and the conclusion of all things is all contained in just those original Hebrew letters. It's quite fascinating. You think about the 300 scriptures that speak about Jesus' first coming. Now there's more spoken of about his second coming. There's about 800 or so scriptures that refer to Jesus coming back the second time. But if we just look at the 300 regarding his first appearing, a lot of people will say, sure, Jesus was a real person, he was a Jew, and he knew the Jewish scriptures, so he went out of his way to fulfill them. That's a fascinating argument, because I don't know how you, as a child in the womb, tell your parents where you must be born. I don't know how you force that to happen. I don't know any con man, because if he was going out of his way to prove that he was the Messiah, then essentially people are suggesting that he was a con man, he was a liar. And I don't know any con man that would go to the degree allowing himself to be crucified on a cross. Worst form of execution ever considered by man in probably all of history, I'm sure some people have other forms of execution that are equally vile. So there's some arguments that just don't fit. If you think about it rationally, logically, some arguments that don't fit regarding this Jewish person trying to fulfill those prophecies on his own strength. Now, if you just look at it mathematically, and I've got to thank Chuck Missler for this input. Chuck Missler, I'll mention him again later in the series. Just the probability of one human fulfilling 8 of those 300 scriptures reaches into the realm of absurd improbability, which is, I stand to be corrected, it's something like 10 to the power of 50 something, 10 to the power of negative 50 something. Okay, that's mathematical terms, they say practically not ever going to happen. Okay, so that's just 8 of the 300. And the reality is, there's a man who existed historically who fulfilled all 300. That's got to be some really weighty evidence for people to consider. Just the validity of this book in human history. So I just wanted to mention those couple of items, just checking my notes quickly. And that's just part of the reason. There's so many more reasons. Running out of time here, but just the Gospels, the 4 Gospels, how the 4 Gospels are written in multiples of the number 7. If you had a look at it, consonants in multiples of 7, vowels in multiples of 7. Specific words that those individual authors would use. So Matthew would use very specific words, it was his common language. John would use very specific words that Matthew didn't use, it was John's common language. Same with Luke and Mark. Those unique words all exist in multiples of 7 in the Gospels. It's crazy. If you look at the first 5 books of the Pentateuch, they call it the Pentateuch, so the first 5 books of the Old Testament, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. If you count in 48 units, so you start from the first digit and you count 48 units, in Genesis you'll get the word Torah, and in Numbers you'll get the word Torah spelled forward. Leviticus you don't find that, but then in Numbers and Deuteronomy you'll get Torah spelled backwards. And then what do you find in Leviticus? You find the word Yahweh, which is the almost the unspoken name of God. So Genesis and Exodus point forward to Leviticus, to Yahweh in Leviticus, and Numbers and Deuteronomy point backwards to Yahweh in Leviticus. These type of oddities, if you want to use the word, exist over and over and over and over again in this book, which really suggests that this book is designed, and it's designed outside of the human environment. It has come from a source that humans could not fathom, that humans could not put together in their own ability. There is a designer, there is a source, a hidden author, if you want to look at it, of this book. No other book in this world has got that uniqueness to it. This is this is an amazing book. Really, just so much in this book, and people just think, oh, it's good morals, no problem. Read it, sure, go for it, good morals. But there is so much more going on here in the Bible. And so I just find that there's so much weight to what this book has to offer us. And if there were 300 prophecies regarding Jesus' first coming on the earth, there are 800 regarding his second coming which is soon to hit the planet, so it's kind of like, watch this space. I have a suspicion that I am in a generation that will not die until we see that moment. That's how close I really believe we are, and that's another reason why I really want to be speaking about this subject matter. So, if you don't have one of these books, I urge you, encourage you, go get a Bible. Go get a Bible. And, I'm not trying to convince you, just by the way, but if you are someone who is searching for the one true God, then you have to be considering all the major religions of the world, and I've just given you just a handful of very good reasons why this book should be at the top of your consideration. So thank you for listening to this short session, and I hope that you will tune in again next time. God bless.